meetings with our.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear the conversation.
Okay, I'll have Mayor Panko speak louder. Okay, do you want to start over?
Good morning and welcome to this inaugural meeting of the Smiths Falls for All Committee. I'm thrilled to have everyone here today. As we open all our meetings with our land acknowledgement, I will start this meeting with our land acknowledgement. On September 14, 2023, we acknowledge that the sacred land in which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawn on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order, and Clerk Castell, perhaps you want to put your phone up here. It might be a great opportunity for Mitra to be able to hear us.
For who?
She's on your phone?
Yes.
Maybe we put your phone up here somewhere, or even on the podium, might be a little bit closer.
We're going to move you, Mitra. We're going to move you up to around the horseshoe.
Yeah, I have very almost close to zero hearing of what is being told there.
Okay.
Okay, maybe is it better now, Mitra?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Better, a little bit.
Okay. My name is Sean Panko. I'm Mayor of Smiths Falls, and I'm proud to chair this committee. Just want to give a little bit of history. In 2020, some evidence of racist incidents had occurred in Smiths Falls, and some of it seemed to be a bit of a pushback to some of the support surrounding the George Floyd murders in the U.S. And at the time, we reached out to members of our community of various ethnic backgrounds and races, and to see if they had experienced any incidents themselves. And at the time, sadly, they all had in one way or another. And that led to the formation of a racism discrimination task force, which operated through the pandemic. Started in 2021, I believe, and worked for about a year and a half. A number of recommendations, and we'll talk about those recommendations a little bit later. But over the last couple of years, as we're all aware, we are seeing a rise in hate. We're seeing a rise in incidents globally against people of different ethnic backgrounds, attacks on the LGBTQ community. We're proud to unveil our rainbow crosswalks in June, and unfortunately they've been vandalized on a few occasions. And so we want to try to ensure that our community truly is one for all. And that's why we come up with the name Smiths Falls for All for this committee, to try to help ensure that we combat any racism, homophobia, prejudice, bias, and try to ensure that everyone feels comfortable and confident living in our community. So I will call the meeting to order. I'll ask for approval of the agenda. Need a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Ellie, seconded by Peter. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
I'm abstaining because I need us to discuss what the title of the committee is going to be at some point.
Okay. We have no minutes. Unless for disclosure of monetary interest. I see none. I assume none. Okay, we need to appoint a vice chair. So I will look for nominations for a vice chair. Would anyone like to recommend someone as vice chair?
I'm not volunteering. You want to just explain what that role is? It's fairly benign, but
yeah. So vice chair would be would step in the chair's role if myself as chair was unavailable to chair a meeting. Other than that, there probably would not be a lot of extra burden, I guess, for lack of a better expression. But if we have no nominations, I will nominate Ellie. Do I second her for that nomination? Second her for that nomination? Okay, Sherry says yes. Sherry, Ellie, do you accept that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Happy to.
Oh, great. Wonderful. All in favor?
Yes.
That's confirmed. Thank you. Okay, I'm missing the next 4 meetings.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have no delegations today. And priority issues, let's get right into that. And I think an important one, of course, is introductions. I'm going to go around the room with the group. If you can please identify yourself, any position, any organization you may be representing, and what do you see as your role for the Smith Falls for All Committee, and what do you hope that this committee accomplishes? So I'm going to start with our veteran, Councillor McKenna.
Thank you. I'm speaking a little louder. So Peter McKenna, I'm in my 5th year on council. A long background in health, social services, housing, substance use, quite a bit of training in the area of racism, discrimination, tried to be a half-decent ally where I can. And I guess the other thing I realize as I get up aches this morning, I'm also a senior, and ageism is alive and well, as we know. So I'll try to keep that in mind, that I don't pretend to represent anyone else, but I could reflect on being a senior as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
My name is Chris Silverman Cutler. I'm involved in doing reconciliation. I also worked in the field of disabilities and advocated with many for the Ontario Disabilities Act. I am a supporter of residential school survivors, women and children who are Indigenous, as well as all women and children, and basically have been very involved in dealing with racism in our community and other communities before I came here. It really requires every one of us to be involved. My background is largely community-based, and I've basically been advocating for more than 20 years. I was part of 50,000 women who advocated for the end of violence, poverty, and racism in the year of 2000 to make it better for everyone.
Thank you. Clerk Costello, put you on the spot too.
Didn't know you were going to include me in this. My name is Carrie Costello. I'm the town clerk for Smith Falls and the staff resource for all of you on this committee. Lifelong resident of Smith Falls. I was born at the South Unit and raised in town. Married and now live on the outskirts, but this has been my place of employment for 27 years. And I want to see Smith Falls, as Mayor Staples said, or Mayor Panko said, to be inclusive and to be somewhere where it is for all. I see the generations coming up in my family. We've got new babies, and I want them to grow up in this community. I want them to stay in this community, and I want them to be accepted no matter how they choose to be or how they choose to grow up. And so I am doing this not just for myself, but for my family and for my community.
Thank you. Mitra, can you hear me? You're next. And I hope it is Mitra.
Can my voice be heard?
Yes.
Okay. So, hello again, everyone. I'm very happy to be able to participate in this meeting as a member of the committee of Smith Falls for All. I'm very excited, and I would like to express my gratitude for the opportunity given. So I'm an immigrant from Iran originally. I came to Canada in 2012. No family here. It was a huge step, I should say. So I just moved by myself as a refugee to begin with, and now I have like a stable status in Canada. And I could, through like searching around at the time that I could afford to purchase a property, I actually got into Smith Falls, and it just happened that I ended up living here and become a resident of this beautiful town. Since I came to Canada, I started with volunteering. I just wanted to get very familiar with the country culture as well as the company culture, like office culture here, before looking for jobs. And prior to that, I was a university teacher back in Iran, and but it was different here. I wanted to start looking around to see what I could do here as an effective member of my new community. So I volunteered with different charities and non-for-profit organizations, such as helping with furniture. Basically, we delivered furniture to refugee families who couldn't afford buying any furniture. That was a huge experience for me. I was a member of the choir of a Catholic church in Ottawa. And then I moved to work with Catholic Center for Immigrants in Ottawa. It's a non-for-profit community center. And from there, I could move to City of Ottawa. And at the moment, I'm a permanent full-time employee of City of Ottawa in the capacity of a recreation coordinator in a long-term care home. And also I have the experience of being a member of the board of directors in Ottawa Legal Clinic, which provides legal aid help to the residents of Ottawa who could not afford having a lawyer. So with that background, when I moved to Smith Falls, I got the warning, literally I could call it a warning from my Canadian friends even, that be careful, it's a very, very, I would say, tough community. You would not be able to maintain a life there. And well, I knew myself that I'm a very flexible person. I'm very friendly and icebreaker. So I really didn't take those comments into account, and I'm happy that I didn't. I found the Smith Falls people quite humble and friendly and open, and I find my community very supportive for me as a single woman and a newcomer. And that's what I would like to see, and that's my main motivation now of being a member of this community committee to actually to help Smith Falls to be a town with a diverse population of different cultures and faiths, or people with different sexual orientations or even financial statuses. I want everyone to I want to see a town that everyone feels equal and safe to be who they are, and not to feel like they need to hide one aspect of their life with the fear that they might be blamed or humiliated, or they might put themselves or their family in danger. So that's what I would like to see, considering the fact that Ottawa is a growing community and we have lots of newcomers coming in. And Smith Falls is a booming industry as well. It has always been, and I'm hoping the best for the future as well. I want to see that it also attracts so many people from outside, from Ottawa, to come live there, because since the distance is not that much for commute. So that's my purpose of being in this committee.
Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to your participation.
Thank you.
Ellie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Halliday. I am the Regional Director in Lanark County here for United Way East Ontario. Prior to that, I've worked in the front lines for youth who are homeless. So did a lot of work and advocacy around folks who are on ODSP or part of the 2S LGBTQ community and different kind of aspects there. I also currently volunteer with Lanark County Community Justice Program, and we do a lot of work around reconciliation there. Also, I myself am a member of Smith Falls, grew up here. I'm now a new mom, so I've got a little one here. So my hope is really to create continue this community, to create a safe space for her and her friends as they grow, and so that they'll want to stay here and raise their own families here and continue to just have a safe space to play and be who they want to be.
Thank you. Sherry?
Hi, excuse me. My name is Sherry Crawford, and I'm actually here representing Rideau Community Health Services. I'm the primary care manager there. I'm a registered nurse, and I have been born and raised here and worked in various roles in nursing. And certainly I've seen probably everything there is to see in my nursing career. So at Rideau Community Health Services, we really strive to create a safe space for everybody that walks through the doors, and we really promote staff that work there, that really is their vision. We've all had training in diversity, trans-affirming care, our Indigenous population. We also have been quite actively involved with our Ukrainian families that have come here and our Syrian families. And oftentimes we may not have all the answers and we may not know what to do next, but we figure it out. And we would really like to be instrumental in working in conjunction with the town to create that safe space. And I think, we certainly want inclusion, diversity. We want people to stay here and live here. I've been here all my life. I think Smiths Falls is a fabulous place. I've raised my family, and I have 3 girls that have all gone away to university, and they've all come back here, and they're all raising their families. So I think that's pretty instrumental right there. So I feel very honored, and I'm very happy to be here and really excited about this. So.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gwen.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Gwen Williams. I'm here as a private citizen, just here to advise. I personally see my role here as to advocate for the 2S LGBTQ community, possibly also from the perspective of mental health as invisible disability in the community in regards to the concerns of the Smiths Falls strategy and the goals of this committee. As you may be able to tell from my accent, I was not born here. I was born in England, lived there for many years. Met a nice Canadian from Russell, and after visiting a few times, really enjoyed the rural communities outside of Ottawa. So we moved at the end of her UK visa, which was 2020. That was a great time. So a bit of a little isolating time there. And then in the beginning of 2022, we moved to Smiths Falls, and we picked this community in particular because the area surrounding is gorgeous. The town, I think, has just got, it's so much potential, and it seems like it's so well, it's just ready to grow into something amazing. And we were both very excited by that. We both work downtown, so we know about the commuting times very well. And in terms of my own personal experiences, like I said, I'm a private citizen. I don't represent any community. However, I did, right before the pandemic, realize that I'm non-binary, so my pronouns are they, them. And only through once I got here, I was able to begin some kind of transition, which is actually also through Rideau Health Services. So thank you very much for that. And also, Kelly, thank you very much for Kerry, thank you very much for rubber stamping my name change in January. I appreciate that. So I'm at the very beginning of that journey, and have intimate experience with the various hurdles and trials and tribulations that someone could face in this community through beginning that journey as well. A lot of my friends that I know who are also in the 2S LGBTQ plus community, we really need to work on a better acronym. A lot of them are in Ottawa, but also as we saw at the Pride Crosswalk unveiling, there are a lot of people around too. There wasn't 3 people there clapping. It's quite a busy event, and I feel like I'm there. I'm here for them, and for the experiences that they go through that intersect with things like mental health, unfortunately things like domestic violence, things like that, where the situation can already be quite tough, but considering certain trends in the political landscape, it may get tougher it may get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. So I'm here to help promote and advocate for gender diverse and sexually diverse people in this community, because I believe that they deserve a place at the table. Now I'm rambling, so I don't think I have anything to
That's good.
Thank you very much, all of you. And Janet Sinclair, the member of our committee, is not here today, but we'll put her on the spot at our next meeting. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, I'm very pleased that the last council agreed to form the task force, and this council has agreed to form this committee. And I think it's strong acknowledgement that Smith Falls is a growing and diverse community, and we're changing dynamically, and we want to ensure that everyone does feel comfortable here. Everyone can live their life as they choose here. And it still disturbs me when we see intolerance and incidents of hate, whether it's present in the community or virtually online. And I think as recently as just with Facebook probably being the one, and that's probably one of the sources. And when I see someone I know in the community who will post or share, I guess, a couple of photos of one with Nazi children holding German children holding a Nazi flag, and young children here holding the rainbow flag, and saying, like, do you see the comparison? Do you see the similarities? And it's just sickening when we see people of our community who are yet to understand this is a world for everyone. Your comments around transphobia and the rising hate, more so in the U.S., but I think everything that happens there spills over here. And I guess the frustration that some of these attitudes remain in our community and beyond. And while I don't think they're certainly not the majority of people, I think it's our opportunity to try and help continue to spread messages of positivity and acceptance and love, and help people understand that if you would simply take the time to listen and speak to people who maybe you don't know and maybe who you are judging, you come to understand they're really no different than you. So I'm hoping this group can find mechanisms and methods of moving forward to try and help ensure that, I said, this community truly is for everyone. And as we grow in diversity, we become even more inclusive in the future. So moving forward, Clerk Costello, you're going to talk about our municipal policies, documents, and procedures, sort of the stuff we need to go through.
And I don't want to take up too much time because this committee has bigger fish to fry than going over paperwork. Obviously, one of the main things that I think all of you have seen the terms of reference, otherwise you probably wouldn't have put your name forward. But the terms of reference were developed as a kind of another phase of our previous racism and discrimination task force, which I believe you were on, Chris, as well as Mayor Panko. So we wanted to continue on with that. The unfortunate part is that the committee struggled for quorum, and I think a lot of that has to do with the pandemic as well. So they were never able to develop a final report. So in your packages, you do have the interim report that was presented to council. You can review that. So this terms of reference was developed with that in mind. So the purpose is for advancing the town's efforts to develop a diverse and inclusive community that provides equity for all citizens. And from hearing what everybody just said about why they're on this committee, I think we're already on the right track. So the mandate right now for this group is to come up with our mandate, as well as a work plan. When Councillor McKenna and Mayor Panko and I sat down, we didn't want to come up with something that was very stringent about what we had to do, because that's your role, to come up with what our work plan is, where you think the priorities are. So that's number one on the group. And as Chris alluded to, maybe that's a change of name as well for the committee. So something to look at. So that's kind of our first order of business, is to come up with what we want to accomplish. The terms of reference also goes on, obviously spells out about membership on the committee, up to 8. Right now, I believe we have 6. So if anybody in the community is listening to the live stream, we still have room for some more people on this committee. As well, in year 2, we are going to be looking about listing the objectives, and we're going to have a report to council. We would like to have probably an interim as well as a final report to council with the outcome of this group. This group is for the remaining term of council. So council was elected last October. So we have just over 3 years to meet and fulfill whatever our mandate and work plan is for this committee. So again, I am your staff resource. So everybody has my contact info. Please feel free to reach out to me. We will discuss later on in the agenda about what our meeting schedule will be like, what works best for everybody. As well, right now there is no budget for this group, but should we determine that a budget is required, we're at the perfect time because we will be starting the 2024 budget process very soon. So if anybody has any questions about the terms of reference, or if during the time that we meet, we see that we want to amend these terms of reference, we are certainly able to do so. So that's kind of a quick update on the terms of reference that all of you are aware of. The other things that I just wanted to very quickly touch on, and all of you are very aware of these because you've served on committees or I've sent you these documents, is we do have a code of conduct. And this applies not just to council members, but to members of our committees and local boards as well. So it is, I sent a link to all of you for it. It is on our website. I would just please ask you to read it because it does pertain to you. Just want to make sure that we are in compliance regarding things like items that are confidential. If you have a conflict of interest, which is something I'll touch on in a moment, general conduct at meetings, things of that nature, use of municipal property, gifts, things of that nature. I just wanted to make you aware that this has been in effect since 2018, maybe before that, I can't remember now. And if there is a violation, there is an application form that any member of the public, as well as even members of committee and boards or members of council, can file, and it does get investigated by the Integrity Commissioner. Our Integrity Commissioner is Tony Fleming out of Kingston, but as much as we like Tony, we don't want to have to initiate an Integrity Commissioner complaint. So just take a moment and review those documents if you have them. If you can, if you'd like a hard copy, let me know. I'm pleased to provide that. As well, I think all of you are aware that there is conflict of interest legislation out there. So if any of you feel you have a conflict, either in the negative or the positive, please declare that. And that just pertains to you as well as children, spouse, parents. So if you do think you have a conflict with anything we're going to talk about, please err on the side of caution and declare that conflict. If you do have a conflict, we ask that you do the same thing that mayor and council do. You can abstain from speaking. For the most part, we have council members who sometimes leave the room as well. And that's simply because we have been told that even things such as facial gestures can be seen as a form of communication. So just make you aware. So please visit eLaws, and if you want to read the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, it is on eLaws as well. I've read it. I don't know if anybody else has taken the time to read the legislation. And the last one is our accountability and transparency policy. This hasn't been in place since 2006. This just makes sure that council is accountable and transparent with all of their dealings. So you'll see, if you watch council meetings, you'll see that our council is very transparent. We very rarely go in camera to discuss things, and council does have very strict parameters on why they can discuss things in camera or confidentially. So that's why the meeting today is being live streamed. That's why our doors are open. That's why we provide minutes to the public, because we are accountable to the public we serve. So we do have a policy in place that specifically spells that out. So that's kind of a very quick overview of our policies that pertain to you. Again, if you want copies of them, feel free to reach out. If you want to chat about them, happy to do that as well. But you all just need to be aware of those documents.
Thank you. The only thing I'll add to that is just caution, I guess, all the members to, when we're discussing incidents that you may have seen or been aware of related to hate or racism, discrimination in any form, best not to identify individuals or businesses or keep things in a general term. We don't want to be attracting any issues by those things might be discussed privately, but not in, of course, in a public forum. Okay, so moving ahead, everyone's got, I think, in front of them the interim report of the Racism and Discrimination Task Force. So we'll just go through that. This group came together and did some really positive work. And as Clerk Costello mentioned, I guess unfortunately through time, we got the interim report done. We never got a final report completed. But there are a number of recommendations in here, and I think part of our responsibility will be to go deeper with some of these recommendations in order to enact actions that are still yet to be completed. And so some very positive things happened out of it. Of course, September 30th, we'll have our National Day of Truth and Reconciliation event. This happened in 2022 and 2021, and that really came out of this group. I think there's been really positive steps forward that we need to build upon. So just to take some time to go through that. And the first step, of course, is understanding the local realities. And we've had a number of guests, and I think at the same time, I think we can probably do that again if there's an opportunity to do so. And I believe to have the best actions, we need the deepest understanding. And it's through the experiences of everyone in this room and others that we'll be able to gain that. And then identifying the barriers, areas of opportunity in order to enhance the shared experience and opportunities afforded to racial minorities and those impacted by discrimination and prejudice. We conducted a survey. Is the survey part of this report? I can't remember.
I don't believe so.
Pardon?
I don't believe so.
No. So we can circulate that to ensure that that is also available to members of the group. Stakeholder engagement. And again, this is a few years ago. We may want to do further stakeholder or community consultation to gain deeper understanding and broader feedback. Providing input and recommended action on matters relating to the provision of anti-racist and discrimination initiatives, including education within the community. Of course, some resolutions have been passed at council. We have a broader resolution policy, I guess, now where we, and when it comes to methods of supporting various groups and within the community, when it comes to flag raisings, when it comes to proclamations, trying to provide support where needed. The one thing that we got started with was the potential development of an ambassador program. And Mitra, to your point earlier, really what we want to try and ensure that anyone moving into a community who may come from a different ethnic background, racial minority, or someone who's faced prejudice in other ways, has some allies here. So this program is really designed to ensure if we have people in our community willing to volunteer and be an ally and be that resource for newcomers into our town, it will help people settle and become accustomed to our community much quicker. So I think there's much more work to do on that. Make a recommendation to council regarding membership and commitment to the Canadian Coalition of Municipalities Against Racism and Discrimination. That was completed, and I think there's more takeaways from that we can use in the future. Increase trust, loyalty, and respect within the community by promoting greater equality and inclusion. A number of things happened through there, as indicated, of course. Enhancements with our website, community initiatives. We had a barbecue up on Empress in 2021 to try and help understand the needs of the community better. We had, I think, 14 different community partners who were involved in that day. Of course, Orange Shirt Day, the Pride flag, Pride crosswalks now, Raise Every Child Matters flag. Of course, the powwow has been in place for a number of years now. A great opportunity to learn and understand and support. And then, of course, the motion of M84, Anti-Hate Crimes Incidents and Private Members Bill, so providing support for that, banning symbols of hate. Unfortunately, at this stage still, we do see symbols of hate within our community, and it's federal laws that need to change if they are to be banned completely, despite our support. And the task force will identify and implement actions to fulfill the following goals and objectives. So work towards the reduction, elimination of racism and discrimination. So we need to pick up that ball and carry it forward. To identify existing systemic barriers for racial minorities and those impacted by discrimination, provide opportunities to address these barriers, provide education and affect change, improve our practices and promote social inclusion, of course, promote human rights and diversity, to produce an action plan to report to council within 6 months. This is the action plan that was not finalized. Build partnerships, share resources with like-minded organizations to maximize benefit, be aware of global best practice to reduce potential for overlap of services and initiatives, be inclusive of all community residents at all levels and abilities, engage stakeholders, businesses, cultural organizations as partners in the delivery of initiatives. So again, maybe we'll want to do, as I mentioned, a stakeholder consultation, bring groups together, have some roundtables, get a better understanding of the challenges members of our community face and the actions that we should be taking to improve upon that. And so as you see the initiatives, the land acknowledgement, of course, we opened all our meetings with the land acknowledgement. And that was completed by Chuck Commanda, drafted by Chuck Commanda. And it started, it was first read on September 27, 2021. The training program, so that is something that is, I guess, still in the works. It's not been developed at this stage, and we will probably be weighing in on that development. Recommendation to include a web page for the town dedicated to diversity and inclusion. So again, there's a lot of work to do on that. Cultural events, we've seen an expansion of cultural events, and that's something that we may not run ourselves, but we may support if different events come forward. We know, let's see, Trinity United having Rainbow Sabbath as an example. I don't know the name of the event in the gala back in June at the Legion, which was a great event. Doesn't mean we have to run things, but we can be there as allies and support. As I mentioned earlier, the Allyship Ambassador Program to try and ensure people moving into our community maybe have someone they can turn to when they need to. We did join the Canadian Coalition Against Racism and Discrimination. The area of reflection was designed by an Indigenous member of our community. And even as of this week, we're still working on that. We've made steps forward. So essentially, this is a healing circle that we're planning to put on the tip of Duck Island. With sacred plantings, when we're working on Parks Canada land, we need approval from Parks Canada. There's a level of bureaucracy, and of course, Parks Canada has a mandate to ensure that archaeological studies are completed, that we're not disturbing what could be archaeological elements that may be in the soil. So as much as we are almost prepared to move ahead with that, and we've procured what we would need, we are still waiting for approvals, and there's some steps we're going to have to make before we can get those approvals. And then there's going to be a lot of actions I think will come out of this, which will also bring recommendations, of course, to council. And I won't go through all the testimonials, but we had a wonderful group of people who were very committed to trying to help move our community forward. And we're excited to have all of you here today to help continue with this message. Any questions with anything there?
I just have a comment, if I may.
Yes, Chris?
So I myself am honored to hold several Indigenous teachings, although I'm a non-Indigenous woman. I actually have...
Sorry, Chris, can you just speak up a little louder? Because I'm not sure if Mitra can hear you.
I actually have the possibility that we may be able to have Dion Nolan come to speak to our committee. She's spoken to Rideau Heights Community Health Center in regards to cultural safety, awareness, and anti-racism, and the importance of how that affects a community. So I'm bringing it forward to you. That's a possibility for our October or November meeting if the committee supports that. I believe that you're aware that she spoke at the Rideau House, and she's quite a remarkable woman to bring lots forward. So that's something I'd like us to consider. Also, one of the large things about the interim report that I feel, and many persons who I walk with who are Indigenous and or persons of color are concerned, is that we don't lose the focus about anti-racism and anti-hate, because unfortunately they all tie in. And I think that that's the one thing I'd like the committee's consideration is that we need to include that in the title for those who are not Caucasian from the background that some of us may come from, so that we open the door for it to be as inclusive as possible, to bringing in members of those communities to be part of our committee. If we don't use the word anti-racism and we don't use the word hate crimes, then we are actually missing some of the very important things that lead into some of the acts that we see in the community that we don't want to see in this community. And going forward for the young people, the generations to come, I think that's where the hope lies. Part of one of the teachings I hold of the 7 grandfather teachings is that we look after the generations to come as well as the generations before us. And I always acknowledge that these teachings belong to both the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people as well as the Haudenosaunee people. And I'm just very honored to have learned and walk with remarkable persons from those communities. And I've always made sure that I check for permission. The last quick thing I'd like to say is that we need to be aware that culturally there are differences, and so that if we hold a meeting having a guest coming to speak to us, we have to make room for them to bring their culture and their way of experiencing their culture present to us. And that we have one way, but especially in Indigenous communities, I don't speak for, but I just share that it may be very important that we are in a circle. So part of the reason that I chose to do this today is because I culturally am diverse, and this is how I live out a great deal of the way that I walk forward. So if we are welcoming people, we need, I believe, to consider what makes them feel welcome.
Thanks, Chris. And to your point, I think when it comes to developing our mandate, which I think will probably be very early on, those are the considerations we need to have as part of that. Councillor McKenna.
Thank you. I just want to support Chris's comments around inviting a person. One of the goals of our group, we learned last time, was learning ourselves. We know a lot, but we're not experts. So as we've got work to do, but we can learn as we're doing it. So I would welcome that person to come and teach us. On the name, which is really an interesting discussion, the suggestion to change it came from members, racialized members of the last group, who suggested, I remember it was an important conversation, that they felt that it was the one person anyways, and maybe Mayor Panko can remind me, but it was almost, it sounded negative to them, and they suggested they wanted something more inclusive. So we tried this, and if it's not the right words, I think we could explore it. Was it Charlene, or was one of our members who suggested that the name put up negative? Well, I'm just repeating.
Peter, and I respect
So
that.
we tried to adopt a new one. Mm-hmm. So I'm open to finding better way of expressing the title, because titles do matter. You're right.
And diversity and those words are very colonial, and I think we need to be aware of that. And I respect that we'll have as many people who would come here with different opinions as we would have ourselves. And so I really want to try to realize that if we invite a speaker, Dion is actually a patient Indigenous navigator and liaison in the healthcare system. And the reality I know from and this is where I will divulge, I know Dion personally, so I disclose this up front, but it's very important that we make sure we are very sensitive to the cultural safety of everyone. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I apologize. May I just put a request out? I need to leave at 10 o'clock. So in case the meeting extended after 10, I need to just make my apology and leave if that's okay with everybody.
That's fine, thank you. And we may be close to wrapping up by that point, hopefully. But we don't, but we'll respect that.
And I'll be leaving you shortly at another 10 minutes. So.
Okay. Okay, so anything further on that? No? Okay, let's move ahead with our agenda.
Are we going to vote on whether or not we would extend the invitation for Dion to come before us?
Oh, I think we're very open to delegations, yes. I mean, if you can work with Clerk Costello,
Yeah, as soon as I get a time and a date with everybody's.
certainly. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, ideas to increase membership. And again, I think the more diverse this group is, the greater the life experiences we can all draw from and to help gain a deeper understanding. We're grateful for all of you who have committed to being part of this group and helping move our community forward. But thoughts on how we can grow the membership and grow the diversity of this membership? Yes.
I know I'm not a formal member of the committee, but 8.4 and 8.5, maybe we can roll up into one. And this came out of a discussion that Chris and I had 2 or 3 weeks ago about the possibility of inviting a couple youth members. We do still have, I believe, 2 spots open to invite 2 youth members. Now, the only caveat with inviting youth members, and we did, when we were doing up our procedural bylaw, we did come across this and we did seek legal advice, is that they're more than welcome to sit on committees or advisory boards, but they don't have any voting power because they're under 18 years of age. But in this case and in this scenario, with this type of committee where it's you kind of advising committee or making recommendations committee, maybe there is a possibility of having a couple of youth from SFDCI or TR Leger or something sit on the committee and offer their perspectives and what's going on in their schools. And also on top of that, we do have a student counselor program that we're promoting at SFDCI right now in the hopes of getting 1 or 2 members of the youth there to participate in our council meetings. It has been successful in the past. We've had some really great people who sit at council and offer their perspective as well as let council know what's going on at SF. So this might work nicely hand in hand with the student counselor program by inviting a couple of youth, but I just throw that out there.
Well, I would agree, and I would suggest if we add some student members, which would be great. If they're not voting members, they would not be part of our 8, so that we would still have room to add 2 more voting members if that's what it came down to. But I think their input would be invaluable, and we know again that unfortunately there's some of the youth in our community do face discrimination and prejudice, and we need to understand their experiences if we're going to try and help and move our community forward. So, Carrie, have we reached out to SFDCI or TR Leger or St. Luke's to?
For the student counselor program, yes. For specifically this committee, no, because obviously it was something that I thought the committee should discuss and put their input and whether that's something they'd be comfortable with or not. But
okay, because I suspect there's probably already clubs, groups at SFDCI at least that perhaps we could draw from. That would be a great addition to what we're doing here.
I think that's a great idea because really they're the way forward, right? They're the future and they know what's happening at the grassroots, right? That's when things really start to happen, and that can sometimes not be a very supportive environment.
Another potential ask would be for perhaps teachers at those same schools, because just from perhaps a different perspective of those same issues, it could be a potential addition to what's getting
teacher or student services, someone in student services who may work, supportive roles. Great
Because they
idea.
may have a broader perspective of particular issues that happen in their school over their professional careers. And that's not to exclude youth perspective either. I'm thinking of in addition to, and also the adults with the ability to vote. So that would be useful.
Thank you.
Was your thought when then to invite both, to contact the schools? And I'm thinking probably TR Leger and SF would probably be the two we reach out to, and invite teachers as well as students?
Yes.
Okay.
Or even student services, someone, guidance counselor, someone who's going to be in a role where they're probably interacting, especially with students who are facing greater challenges.
And I was thinking we could also talk to the powwow committee, since they're both Indigenous and non, as possibly one other person that could consider if any of them wanted to do it. I don't know, I'm out of date, co-op hours connected or things like that that could be advantageous from a learning point of view.
We can check with the teacher involved there. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Peter?
And everybody in the room is closer to youth than I am in age. But I want and need to hear from younger youth. Not all youth this is a very formal structure. It's motions. It's not very appetizing. There's the civic leaders in the school that like to participate. All that to say is that at the very least, I'd like to hear from youth, whether they sit around the table with us every meeting and go through some of the things that aren't very interesting. I would like to invite different youth perspectives to come and help, like Chris's suggestion. And I know that the public health unit has a youth council or a youth group that are working, and Ellie might know it, on Planet Youth. They came and presented at that group, really dynamic young people with ideas. So I'd say all of those young people, and not starting with them. I think it's intimidating to come and sit around this table. So I would just want to hear from them and welcome them. Start there, and if one of them say, "Oh, I'd love to sit around this table," then go from there.
I can attest from personal experience as my first day on council that I walked into this room and found this very intimidating. So, yes, I agree.
You look very good up there, though.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, and maybe it's a matter of us doing that outreach, that consultation, and having focus groups. And maybe we do schedule a time to go into the schools and, or at least a small group of us to consult with some of the students.
A more casual forum.
Yeah.
It seems less like they're on trial.
Bring pizza.
Yeah.
And we're always happy to support that, even at Rideau Community Health Services. If there's a room there, it's pretty, informal, safe space.
Less intimidating than here.
Yeah, I think that there might be some youth that would be quite intimidated to really come in and really speak as to what's happening.
Super. But again, when we develop our work plan, these are all the elements that can be part of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Open Doors and Planet Youth both have youth committees, and Planet Youth just did a youth summit all around youth safety and how they're feeling in schools and stuff. So I think that's a great touch point for us to connect with and really hear from what they're seeing and what they're experiencing.
What was that committee who did that, or that group who did the youth summit?
Planet Youth.
Yeah, and the public health lead who helped organize it is
Rebecca Chance.
Good. Yeah, and
Go ahead.
Jared, just that they've already a lot of thoughts put together on this. And if we ask them, if they looked at our work we're trying to do, give us advice or their experience on how we could do it better. They're a really dynamic group. Yeah, thanks.
Super. Any further comments before we move on to our meeting schedule? So, I think there's probably great interest here in trying to move this initiatives forward as quickly and smoothly as possible. And so frequency of meeting, we don't want to push it off too long, but I think we would definitely want to meet at least monthly, maybe, and if possible, maybe more frequently if we have things that are happening. And just wonder how that works with everyone's schedules.
What's your availability the evenings and weekends? Probably not.
Well, I guess that becomes one of the questions for everyone is would everyone be more comfortable meeting later in the day rather than at 9 o'clock in the morning?
So with committees such as this, how far in advance is the schedule set?
Well, we would generally we could set the next meeting date now, so we'd always try to.
I feel like I would be able to make a time like this so long as they had about a month's notice, so I could just clear it with work. That's no problem for me.
Okay, so this is what, the second Thursday of the month? Does it work for everybody today? Do you think that would work going forward?
And is Mitra still with us?
Mitra, are you still there?
Yes, I have a very hard time. Actually, unfortunately, I have lost most of the meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if there is a question, if you tell my name, then I would realize that you're talking to me.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not hearing almost most of the conversation. So for me, I'm a daytime worker. I understand that probably it would not be comfortable for everyone to get together after 4 o'clock. For us, for me, in order to be able to be in person in the meetings, I need to, if there is a set date in the month, then I have to put that as a request just to take a time off from my work to be able to be in the meeting. Otherwise, yes, if I would appreciate if I know exactly what date it would be, like what day it is going to be in the month, so that I go ahead and put those days in the calendar as my request to take the time off because I'm working like 8:30 to 4 o'clock weekdays. So after 4 o'clock, I'm okay. But before that, I have to make that time off from my work shift.
Okay, thank you. So I'm wondering actually if 8 o'clock in the morning would work for everyone. Does that make it any easier or make it more difficult?
Just wanting to think about if we're wanting to bring in youth. Right, like they have school, presumably.
Yeah.
Hopefully that would be supported though.
Yeah.
At the school.
It was
Like I
once a
know.
month, yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly not an issue for me to come whenever because my employer's extremely supportive.
Yeah, I'm the same.
8 a.m.
Maybe
is good
we
if we have a tea or a coffee.
Maybe a donut.
Something civilized.
So Thursday the 12th would be 4 weeks from now. And if I mean, I'm fine with whichever. If 9 o'clock works for everybody, or if you prefer 8. Gwen?
I believe my contributions to the committee would be better at 9.
Okay.
But
We'll
if we
respect that.
decide on 8, I will.
Well, I'm more awake at 9 than I am at 8, so I'm
I
not
can
going to
just get a
disagree.
red eye. It's okay. It just depends on, obviously, for the collective, which works
Yes.
best.
Does that work for you two? And
I would prefer mornings because every second Thursday in the afternoon I have other commitments.
Yes.
I could change that, but that would be.
okay. Mitra, so would the 12th at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. work for you?
Sorry, what time was it again?
9 a.m. on October 12th.
9 to 10?
Probably. Yeah, we may go longer, but if you have to leave, we would respect that, of course.
Okay, sure. As long as I can actually communicate that with my work. So it would be like every second Thursday of the month?
No, we'll go just monthly on the second Thursday of the month. If we work with that schedule, so it'll be the 12th, and November would be, I'm guessing, around the 10th or somewhere around there.
Okay, I see.
Might be easier if we get that all into our schedules now.
I'll send out a schedule.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward for the minutes of the meeting, and then whatever it is, the decision, I will communicate that with my workplace.
Okay. And if you missed a lot of the meeting, it has been live streamed, so will be available on YouTube. I'm not sure how soon afterwards, but before long. Okay.
I'm sorry, I did not hear you. So is the meeting recorded?
Yes, it is. So it'll be available on YouTube probably within a couple of days.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I
Yeah.
will make sure to look at it for
Yeah,
sure.
we'll
Thank
have
you very
Clerk
much.
Costello send out the link when she gets it. And I understand you have to go, so thank you for your participation today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to the next meetings. And I'm sorry for this problem today that I couldn't take part in person.
No worries. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye for now.
Okay, moving on to our correspondence items. We have a letter from the Algonquins of Ontario, just as information. We have reached out back to have a meeting with them, so that may gain further insight and perhaps some assistance with our group. Items for future meetings. Clerk Costello.
So this was a list compiled kind of by yourself, Councillor McKenna, I, and a phone call that I had with Chris Cutler, and different things that we've discussed around the management table. So the Rainbow Registry was one provided by Manager Crowder. I believe it's provincial, and it's a registry for businesses to be specifically registered, I guess, but there's certain protocols and procedures that have to be in place to be fully Rainbow registered. So this was an item that CAO Morris asked to be put on this committee to discuss, to look to see if there is an appetite for making this a corporate wide, because we didn't want just one entity of the town to go through this process, because really it should be something that's a corporate wide venture. So that I put that on, and I was going to ask Manager Crowder to come and speak to that, because she's the one who's worked with the Heritage House on the work they've done so far. The other, and I'll be honest, I don't know much about this one, but it was asked to be put on this agenda. It was a pink bench at the corner of the town hall. I'm not positive of the significance at this point, but it was at the CAO asked me to put it on this agenda. So I was going to have Director Clark come and speak to that.
Sure.
Diversity training update. That's something that town staff did have done pre-pandemic. I'm very sick of saying pre-pandemic. But something that I think we need to have updated. We've got many new staff. There's been many changes in the world. So I put that on to get an update from Nadine Bennett, who's our HR advisor, to have that done, and may possibly extend that training out to our council members as well as board and committee members. And then we do have a cultural plan in place. So I thought it would be probably good for Manager Crowder to come speak to that and kind of discuss with all of you what it is and how it could impact or assist with this committee. And then the last one is a small item, but it's not. It's updating our taxi bylaw to include provisions that are in the Human Rights Code. This was one that Deputy Police Chief MP brought forward to me, and I was going to bring it forward. It's not time sensitive, but something I wanted to put in the minds of this group. So I was going to bring a small report forward at one of our upcoming meetings, because it is a bylaw that the town has in place. And I just thought it would be something that this group could discuss, not only to get to know one of our riveting bylaws, but maybe a quick lesson as well as in the human rights. So if anybody has anything else they'd like to see on agenda, please fire me an email, and we can put it on this list, and then we'll make sure that nothing, I just don't want anything to fall in the cracks if somebody wants something discussed.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes, Peter?
Just on the items for future meetings, could we just review the actions that we agreed, or I think we agreed to today, so that the youth, the
Mandate.
mandate, the person that Chris wants to invite. Is there anything else?
Well, each of the individual actions from the task force,
All right.
we need to go deeper on, and I guess consider if they are still relevant, and then how we move those forward. And I think overall as well, would be the next meeting, the meeting after the work plan. So basically set our path forward for the next 3 years. And we want to do some outreach, some stakeholder engagement, some community consultation, some surveys, all the things we need to do to gain a deeper understanding before we, I guess that will lead ultimately to additional actions, right? Yes?
Would it be helpful if Carrie and the mayor and I sat, or somebody, and looked at those recommendations and said, well, I think this one should, rather than starting at the top, is there some that would be better to start with?
Yes.
Or ask people to just send us, if we started with one, which one?
Well, how about if Carrie can circulate that just in a ranking form, and everyone just comment back how they rank those priorities, and then we'll work at them based on the consensus.
Did you want that circulated to everybody, Mayor Panko?
Everybody in the committee, please. Okay, anything else before we wrap up? So thank you everyone for your participation. It's great to get this started. We've been eager to get moving. We look forward to really moving our community forward with the assistance of everyone here and those who will be part of us in the future. So I just need a motion for adjournment, moved by Ellie, seconded by Sherry. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.